buku. Let's go get them again.
Welcome back to another episode of Samplin' Samples. Today we are sampling from the brand of Jean-Paul Gaultier, another dip into the Scandal Pour Homme lineup. This one called Scandal Pour Homme Absolu. So I did sample the OG Scandal Pour Homme on my channel, I'd say a couple weeks back. And now today we are delving into the second one. Now after sampling the OG Scandal and finding it, honestly, and I don't want to give any spoilers if you haven't seen it. If you do, stop the video if you want to go watch that. But I found it fresher than I thought, right? All the thumbnails on YouTube usually, and again, I'm just, you know, I don't delve into these kind of fragrance reviews, but, you know, I thought it was going to be a thicker thing. You know, caramel, that's what everybody was talking about. And in my mind, I'm predisposed to say, okay, this is going to be like a winter fragrance. I didn't feel like it was. I found it a lot fresher. And yes, I am skipping the Le Parfum edition, which a lot of people are talking about. So if you want me to delve into that one, now they have another new one here, 2025, which I do have to sample. So I might just get both and kind of finish the Scandal lineup. But yeah, I'm skipping that one and going to the Absolu version, which was the 2024 release. So I may double back and get a sample of Le Parfum, especially if I'm getting the new one with the blue bottle there for 2025. But for now, we are going to delve into Absolu and my time with it. I spent a couple days with it, and here we are today. My thoughts on this one is you're going to see. I was expecting, again, I'm very surprised with the outcome of what I smelled. Now, before we get into anything, if you haven't subscribed yet, you're new here, welcome to the Robe Zoe channel. I'm your host, Mark. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like button for, you know, all my work, right? I actually wear these things. You know, I spend my own money on these little decants and to inform. That's all I'm here for. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not getting any free bottles from Jean-Paul Gaultier, which they do. They send them. Puig is pretty generous with their influencers. They give out free bottles. But for me, I don't have, you know, any stakes into this. It's not a business. This is my hobby. So if you're new here, it's, you know, it's a great reviewer to have in your back pocket if you want just honesty, and this is where I'm at. To the ones that return, welcome back. My designer heads, welcome back. If you're a niche head, you're enjoying the show. So let's get into it. But much appreciated if you hit that like button. Merci beaucoup. Now let's go under the hood. Let's take a look at some stats on this one. Let's get this review started. Release date was back in 2024. Noses, they do return from the OG. So Christophe Renaud, Nathalie Graciasetto, and Quentin Bish. Q's back. They all return. Now, looking at the note breakdown, this is where I'm... now, I didn't go into heavy research. I use Fragrantica as... they're just consistent in regards to... I use this little, you know, their little note breakdown. They're very consistent because they got everything. So I use them as... and I know Fragrantica is like almost like 70-30, we'll say. As far as 70%, they have the notes right. 30%, they're completely off the wall. So look at the note breakdown here. Before we start going into it, up top we got Mirabelle. It's like a yellow plum. In the mid we got chestnut, and funny enough they have chestnut because when I reviewed the OG, I was like, the competition is stronger with you, and here we go, chestnut's here. Okay, they're not hiding it anymore. The competition is stronger with you. And in the back end we have sandalwood. So they're using the 3-note DNA. The one thing that I noticed, I was like, okay, so wait a minute. The OG was based on CLARY sage, which is a huge piece, and that's what makes it so fresh. The lavender piece of the CLARY sage is just, it takes over the scent. Tonka bean, which is a huge piece. You know, you got that Quentin Bish Tonka bean that you gotta have in there. Puig loves this Tonka bean fog. And it's missing the caramel, so I guess chestnut versus caramel. And it's missing the vetiver. So everything from the OG, I'm like, oh, this is a completely different fragrance, as per the note breakdown. But I know better, because Paco Rabanne does the same thing. And again, it's under the same umbrella, Puig, right? They do the same thing with their Le Mals, right? They give you 3 notes, and then you're just like, it's the same notes as, I smell the same stuff from the original. And this is what happened here. I was like, okay, I'm getting a totally different, a plum chestnut sandalwood. Okay, I can dig it. But the big notes in this fragrance, and this is where I'm going to switch it on you. Big notes. So we're going to go with some that are not published. Tonka bean. Bish is back, baby. That Tonka fog's back. Chestnut. So it has a piece in this. And the clary sage, which again, not listed. So 2 out of the 3 are not listed. So you know where this is going, kind of, sort of. And just spoiler alert, all the notes in the OG, they all come back. They're all in here. So they're just not listed. So are we going to get like a super fantastic chestnut caramelic kind of thing? Like a really, unique gourmand fragrance? Well, stay tuned. I'm going to tell you right now. So I'm wearing Scandal Pour Homme Absolu right now as my scent of the day, but let's do the last dab here and just kind of remind me of the introduction and start reviewing this thing. Oh, it went under 2 points. That was a good launch. Okay. Scandal Pour Homme Absolu. So, so I was anticipating something completely different, right? I was like, okay, this is going to be completely different from the OG. So right off the bat, Scandal Pour Homme Absolu definitely loses a bit of the freshness from the OG, like a bit. Like it darkens it. Like I feel like the base notes came in a little sooner on this one. That's it. I can feel that in this one. It's going to go a little darker, just a little darker. It's not going full on winter-based fragrance for me personally, just a smidgen more. So it still has some freshness to it. Off the bat, I felt those sweeter notes being more dominant and they showed up much quicker, the fragrance. So this one does just like the OG. It has some temporary citruses off the bat that don't really affect much of the scent as they start us off with that Mirabelle plum. Now I know reviewers are going to focus on the Mirabelle plum. They are. They're going to also focus on the chestnut because that's the way they're going to sell you, the consumer. They know they're good at this stuff. They are going to be thumbnails with plum, chestnut, one of the best, right? It's kind of, I can see it now. The best, Scandal Pour Homme, chestnut plum, right? Well, because of the sexy notes. Well, the Mirabelle plum, it's sweet. It's a little tart and almost kind of has a marmalade undertone, like a citric undertone to it. And it can give off some floral tendencies as well. You get almost all facets of it in here, but don't expect fireworks as the darker notes really engulf this thing right off the bat. So it really just doesn't give that note a chance to fully blossom. Maybe it just doesn't have the gas to kind of, give you the full effect of the Mirabelle plum. So don't expect a huge purple hue that, it's not that. This is not what this is. A Mirabelle plum's a little different than that, but it really is. It kind of did what the Clary Sage did in the OG, where it was the more, the one note that was a lot more full, and it did a lot of things. Like a caramel's a caramel, right? And a vetiver's a vetiver kind of thing. This really gave you like 3-dimensional, but it really wasn't. It does its thing, but it really isn't a major player. The Tonka bean comes in, the Bish special, and the caramel returned from the Eau de Toilette. I was like, I thought you guys were both gone. So, and they bring a friend. They bring the chestnut. So that's where this goes into. They all come in swinging. And honestly, speaking about the caramel and the Tonka, both still exactly the same from the OG. The volumes don't go up. The caramel's not fuller. So don't expect more depth or more nuances from these notes. They're exactly this, like clone. They cloned it. Still Bish Tonka fog. So no almond, no cherry, no nothing. Just the regular vanilla Q with its a little bit of powderiness. The caramel still kind of missing that thickness that I wanted from the OG. It still isn't that dense. It's not as beautiful. It's just the exact same thing. So that's where it is. Now, the chestnut is a new facet, and it was kind of nice for a bit. But it's not as full either. It's kind of missing. It's missing in action a little bit. The Clary Sage returns as well. And even though not listed in the note breakdown, it's very much a major player in here. It's doing its lavender clean touches and continues to lend freshness to these darker, sweeter notes. It's a good balance. I'm not saying it's not, but you know, I wasn't expecting, like, I was, but I wasn't, right? You're looking at the note breakdown, it's nowhere to be seen. And here they are, the whole band returns. The one item I felt missing was the Le Beau touches, right? The OG had like this coconutty green Le Beau kind of thing, coconutty green thing, and that was in the OG, but it isn't here at all. You'll lose that completely. So you'll lose a big part of that freshness in the opening of the OG. It's not there anymore. You're still getting some freshness from the Clary Sage, of course, and the Mirabelle note as well. Those are the two that are kind of giving out fresh pieces, but you know, you're losing that Le Beau Biche DNA in here, which doesn't compare to Le Beau anymore. That's a big piece of that opening that's gone. So that's why it darkens quicker, I guess. So now moving into the mid of the fragrance, just like the OG Scandal Pour Homme, it's a three-headed monster. While you start losing the Mirabelle, but you continue to get the caramel, the tonka, and the Clary Sage, and they hold hands with the same volume, and it makes this scent quite kind of linear. Once you hit this stage, you're just like, you're not getting much more. The only addition at this point is the chestnut, which was a piece from the intro. So it had its, let's say, time and space in the intro, but now it's melding into this three-headed monster, and it starts losing steam in this dry down. So it does take a page of the Stronger With You line here, but the chestnut isn't as good as that one, honestly saying, and not as prominent or as strong from its Armani counterpart. I felt Armani did it better, and that's just my thoughts, is I felt like that lineup and that DNA is kind of stronger, pun intended, than this lineup, right? This lineup is obviously pinpointed to go against that and the Armani codes and all that, the flankers, but they're really one little step down. And I can see why people like it, because it's the DNA that's very popular, obviously. But I felt like the Stronger With You lineup does this better. If I'm just looking at that for face value, the chestnut piece, the bubblegummy 1 million DNA is still here from the Scandal Eau de Toilette, which had it. So that's obviously, you know, pulled from either Renault or Biche. And with the, obviously the Tonka, but deeper in the dry down, you get some woody nuances. Just like the OG. The OG had some woody nuances from the vetiver. And they note sandalwood here, and yes, there's a creamy, soft, woody nuance here, but I also feel like the original clean woody vetiver, again, the vetiver not listed, but in the OG, is also here. So the added sandalwood makes it a little woodier than the original in the back end a bit. The sandalwood here isn't a great one. It kind of reminds me of sandalwood use in 1 million, the lineup. So that kind of sandalwood. You know, the sandalwood in 1 million gold is awesome, like 10 times better than this. This is kind of like lost, like it's almost like that gold elixir where the sandalwood's kind of lost in translation. This is kind of where this steps in. Overall, Scandal Pour Homme Absolu does darken the OG. Un petit peu, just a little bit. But really the added pieces here aren't showstoppers. It's nice to get a little chestnut here, but mainly the skeleton of this one is the exact same from the OG. I didn't feel there was much more to discover here, honestly. The note breakdown deceives us again with the Scandal line, as I didn't see any returning pieces in the note breakdown, but I quickly learned on my first wearing, I was like, hey, They all returned. They're all here, and they're all in the same volume. They added, like, it was just like they used that formula and they had it sitting somewhere, and they plumped it on their desk like I did, and then they did a little drops of chestnut here, gloop gloop, a little bit of sandalwood, gloop gloop, and you know, this Mirabelle note, gloop gloop, and that's it. Same thing, mix it, we're good. Lazy perfumery comes to mind. Not, you know, when you're looking at flankers, you're looking at, you know, can it take a piece of the original and add something to it, right? And yes, they did it here as far as the OG still there. And they added pieces. Yes, you know, looking at face value, yes. But it doesn't give me any like I've seen flankers that just add one note, and that one note just changes the whole thing and it makes it better. I feel like the Mirabelle was kind of like, oh, okay, interesting, but you know, once everything started coming into play, it got engulfed. The chestnut's too light to really be a showstopper. And then when it comes to chestnut, I'm thinking stronger with you, you gotta come correct. And I just felt like, no, the original DNA is too strong to let the other piece, even the sandalwood, like, yes, I could feel that there's more of a woody backdrop, but the vetiver's still there doing its thing. And it's almost like it's a compliment piece, but it just didn't wow me. Now into seasons, day, night, versatility, and performance. Seasons. Just like the OG, but a little less versatile because it's a little thicker, it's a little denser, just a little bit though. So the versatility is almost like the season's still the same. It's just you know, if it's a little cooler, you can wear this a little bit more. So it's fall, winter, and spring, just like the OG, but you know, maybe a little less spring. You know, fall, you may have to wait a little, you know, a couple weeks into fall and then start wearing this one. That's where, and again, it's not dense enough to, it really kind of almost overlaps the OG a bit. Like it's a little darker, but it's not, you know, I want a little bit of separation. It's like, it should have been here, but it's more like here, and they're kind of overlapping a little bit on wearings, right? Day or night, nighttime, just like the OG. Versatility, average, just like the OG. Performance, just like the OG, actually performed a little less on me. So longevity, exact same, 6 to 8 hours. This thing did not push any more than the original. And again, the original is very fresh. Like I wore that thing like a couple weeks ago. So I still remember my wearings of it. 6 to 8 hours, which is not a bad thing. It's perfectly fine as far as longevity goes, but it's not beast mode. And projection was average, just like the OG, but a little less. Like it's still in that average range. So it's not bad enough that I can go, you know, below average, which I kind of rate into. No, it's still in that average projection, but a little less than the OG, honestly. So my final thoughts and score. It's kind of nice to test out a line like this, like back to back like this, because now I'm really delved into this line. But my final thoughts on this release are that it does not move much from the original. It makes it a smidgen, a little more darker, denser, but still has that underlying freshness that keeps it from going too dark or where I want it to go. Still a nighttime scent. Versatility takes a little bit of a hit. Performance is a little less from the OG, which is kind of surprising in my opinion, which is interesting because this one's the darker one. So you'd think, you know, it's just I'm programmed that way. The darker one should last longer. It's not always the case, but you know, so I'm guessing many people will want to buy this for that Mirabelle note, thinking plum and the chestnut, but alas, I tell you that the Mirabelle isn't much of a player in this one, honestly. Yes, it does its thing in the opening, but not enough in my opinion. And the chestnut itself does play a role, but again, like I said in my Scandal Pour Homme sampling samples, is that I think the Stronger With You line from Armani did this better. And Puig is not even hiding that it's aiming at those sales, that it's trying to go through that demographic and that kind of scent profile. They did okay. right? It's okay, but it's a step down from the Armani line. And, you know, it's not often that I say that, right? Armani is like not your pinnacle, but it's better than a, you know, Jean-Paul Gaultier. Like, I dumb down, like Armani thinks they're Hermes and Chanel and Dior. They're not. They're in the Jean-Paul Gaultier, Polka Robot, like maybe a little better, but they're not far off. This is where Armani kind of flexes a little bit. They're the older line and they're the better line. There's some high redundancy here with the Eau de Toilette as well. But not only that, but there's some high redundancy to Paco Rabanne releases. You know, the 1 million line mostly is what I correlate with some of this. Like I felt like a little bit of the sandalwood from the 1 million DNA. I felt a little bit of that Renault Biche kind of DNA going through this. And of course, Stronger With You. I think is the better built release for this kind of scent profile. So at the end of the day, Scandal, Pour Homme, Eau de Toilette, and now the Absolu. A mid-line right now. I was hopeful with the original, with the caramel. Like again, you can go watch that review. I was hopeful. I'm a caramel kind of guy. Like I'm a gourmand kind of guy. And you don't have to be super artistic with caramel. It just needs to be a nice little thick gourmand thing for the winter, and add a couple secondary notes that are interesting and call it a day, and I'm happy. I'm not really huge, you know, judgmental on those kind of fragrance notes, like things like patchoulis and rose-based fragrances and woody fragrances, ouds and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm gonna be a little harder on them, but the gourmands, it's not hard. It's not hard to do. And I see some complexity here. The Mirabelle note has some complexity, but it was just engulfed by the Tonka Clary Sage caramel / chestnut kind of combo that it just didn't have its time. It just didn't. So at the end of the day, if I have to give it a score, I gave the original Scandal a 6, and I don't think this one adds anything, even though it adds some things. I think it's only personal taste now versus the other. One's more versatile, the other one's a little less, like this one's a little less versatile than the OG. But you're getting a lot of the OG parts back in this, so if you own one, this one might be redundant. The chestnut, depending on your nose, you might really like that little added piece, but I don't think it was enough for me. I'm gonna give it also a 6 out of 10. I think it's right there. You know, I was hoping, like when I said on the OG samples, I was hoping that they would add things and make it, you know, it's missing something. There just wasn't enough added to this one. I just feel like if you would have maybe amped up the Mirabelle and the chestnut, you know, like not just one volume, but like 2 or 3 volumes high, and make them last a little bit more, and maybe turn down the Clary Sage, you know, a couple volumes as well to make this thing a lot darker, I think we would have a 7 or 8 on our hands here, but this is a 6. It's a 6. Now that you heard my take, I'd love to see yours in the comments below. Good, bad, and the ugly, right? Redundancy's there. You can say all you can. You can disagree with me all you want. I love comments that are in all spectrums, right? You can bash this all to hell. Give it a 0. I don't care. I don't have any stock in Jean-Paul Gaultier. I'm not waiting for them to send me free bottles. I smell all their stuff just like any other influencers. Their bottles are collecting dust, and I got my bottles collecting dust. Doesn't really, it's the same thing. You can say it's like a mid product, like I'm saying, 5, 6, 7 kind of thing. And then, or you're saying that, no, this is great. I love seeing those kind of comments. I applaud those kind of comments. You know, we can't all just be sheep and like the same thing. So I can't wait to see those. And as always, Create a Pour Fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your scent wisely. Thanks for watching, YouTube. Have a good one.